Hello, everyone. Today is June 6th, 2026. And I don't know why I mentioned the date this morning while I was getting dressed. I just heard that in my head. So I'm just prefacing this video today with the date of the month and the year. Erik and I are back to give you what we've got for this week. And as I always say, I don't really do any research anymore. I just go with what Erik and when Laura's with us have researched, and then I add my common sense to it or anything that I found out during the week. But today I did go looking, and I'd like to share that with you before I get to Erik and what he has found. But Erik, welcome back.
Hello, Jennylyn.
How was your week, Erik?
It's been a busy one this week for sure.
Okay, guys, that means he has a lot to tell us. So let me hurry up and share my research with you, and then Erik will fill us in. So, since we have started this segment since we've started the series that includes the war, I've been continuously asking a question that neither Erik nor I or most people could answer. So I decided I'll do my own research and see what I find out. There is a woman called alimforever.com. I encourage you to look her up. You can find her on TikTok, and I think she's on YouTube as well. And this is what I learned from what she has researched. The world could have clean, free, unlimited energy for every single person on the planet. The science is, we know what to do. The science is there. We know what to do. We know how to do it. And we have people who want to do it. But there's a block. Based on shareholder reports, the block was never physics nor politics. We are being outbid by the war machine. Only 5% of the world's antimony, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, goes into solar glass. 40% of the US use is on ammunition. Military spending in 2024 was $5 trillion. Global clean energy spending was only $600 billion. The war economy is 3 times larger, and it uses the same minerals. They are taking the critical minerals we need for green energy transition and redirecting them into war using public money, then calling that green. These minerals are finite. They are critical, and they are running out. And most of what is left today ends up as bullets, not solar panels. They are also ending up on fighter jets and drones. You can put the pieces together yourself. So I would say, in my quest to find the reasons why I think Jennylyn's opinion, based on Jennylyn's research, as the machine or the motive behind all these wars, I believe this is a big part of it. And one last thing before I turn this over to Erik. This last week, I made it my mission that every person I encountered, and something doesn't want me to say what I'm saying, losing my voice. Sorry, guys. I've been watching and talking to people this week, and I was putting a lot of energy and paying attention to the average person. And as we all know, there's so much going on in the world that will affect every single one of us. And I was shocked to discover that very few people care. A lot of the people I talk to just don't care. They're like, oh, I just have to figure out how to pay the next bill. All right, so, all right. That's the country we're living in. Erik, welcome back. What do you think of what I just read?
Well, I can tell you, just off of alternative energy, where I'm from in Ohio, the alternative energy companies flooded like the 5 counties surrounding mine. And I can tell you that on a commercial level, it's not all it's cracked up to be. We had windmills come first. The windmills destroyed our economy in our area. My family had leased out acres and acres and acres of their farmland, so they can. It takes about 2 acres in the middle of a field to put up one windmill. So what that windmill does is it continually runs. They pick Ohio because there's always a west east current going through there that keeps the windmills going. What it did was it killed all the crops. Everything around it dies. And then you have the birds die. The motors are catching on fire. The propellers are falling off, like these massive windmill propellers. The wind alternative energy industry is a disaster. On top of that, they came in and they gave every kid in like the 4 school districts in our county a laptop. And everybody's like, oh, wow, great. This is going to be great for our community. That was the last positive perk that we got out of them. That energy doesn't even go to our area. It goes to a nuclear power plant in Detroit, and the rest of it goes to the western end of New York City. So for that to come in, it ended up being a major failure in our community, and everybody back home regrets letting them come in. The solar energy. Now, the solar energy is not going to be feasible in every part of the United States. That's the problem. For instance, look at the amount of rain and overcast weather that Seattle gets, or the whole state of Oregon. The solar energy is not going to be worth anything in areas like that. My dad put a massive solar system on top of his barns, and it cost him, I think he said, about $33,000. And he said, I'll never recover that investment. And Ohio is relatively sunny most of the time. And he said that the amount of energy that it generates is not enough to cover the investment. He said, I'll take a loss on it. So
thank you, Erik. Sorry, yeah.
There's also, so here in southern Georgia, when I travel to Florida, we have a massive solar energy like field. I mean, it's hundreds of acres of solar panels. And one thing I notice when I go by there is there's a lot of broken ones from the weather, from whatever. You know, you have basically like a glass panel facing up. So anything can break those things, and they do. So that's where it brought up a good point that my dad, he's like, I have to replace panels all the time because they break. He said they get too hot, they'll crack. There's all these factors. He said that the investment's just not worth it. So that's where we're at. The alternate energy sector is just not up to par. They need to do more technological research to do these things. You know, they even say that the wind, or I guess it's the water turbines out in the ocean, aren't generating enough as well either. It's just not enough. So we have an issue when it comes to alternative energy. It's just like with the data centers, that's going to turn into a giant disaster. We have like 90 of them in Metro Atlanta, and we have one in my county that the company got caught tapping into our public water supply and stole over 100 million gallons of water. And so that's another issue. you're seeing a big push against the data centers in these communities, so that we really have a an energy problem. We're doing too much and trying to cut corners just to stay ahead of China, and it's going to be a massive failure, in my opinion.
Thank you, Eric. I really appreciate that breakdown. And I've heard a lot of what you've shared, so I agree that's an issue. But my perspective on what this woman has published from her research that I just read some of, because I think I would encourage anyone watching the show who cares to check it out in its entirety. She's done some amazing work. And I have to agree with a lot of what she says based on what I see. To me, what she's saying is we have the know-how. We have the people who want to do it. If we channel the energy and the money we're putting into wars into this, all of what you have listed could be perfected and repaired, or we can have alternative energy solutions for areas where there isn't enough sunshine to fuel it. My whole point is we can't figure out what's causing the war. We know it's not energy. We've already decided we don't need Hormuz for our energy, our fuel, and whatever supply. And therefore, so what is the purpose behind the war? And for me, this says why it is. Because our priority is war and the war machine, not energy and not resources to enable the Americans. And that is my argument, or that is my take. So I agree with all that you have said, and I believe all those things are true because the money and the energy that should go toward perfecting this is going toward war. The statistics say it. So anyway, I'm not going to beat this one into the ground. I wanted to ask you what news updates you have for us for this week.
Well, I've been paying close attention to the California elections that are going on, still going on. I have to say, what a disaster! I've never seen an election be this much of a disaster. I'm not going to sit here and say like some of the Republican pundits and say, well, there's obviously a election fraud going on. I'm not going to say that, but I am going to say that California has a massive disaster when it comes to organizing their elections. I don't know why they still have not finished counting. We're almost a week into counting. Well, this is a huge problem. We can call races here in Georgia, with I don't know how many millions of people we have here, but we can get the race called in a day. Florida can get a race called in a day. New York can get a race called in a day or two. Why does California take an entire week to count? That's ridiculous. And what it does is we talk about election integrity. I'm not saying that California is cheating, but what I'm saying is it does, from the outside looking in, it does make it look like something fishy is going on. So, maybe, Gavin Newsom, you was such a, pat yourself on the back kind of guy for all these years. Go fix the elections. Like, why does it take so long? Probably because you guys' math scores in your schools are so low, nobody can count. I don't know, but that's unnecessary. It's absurd. It shouldn't be happening like that. I don't understand it.
Well, I spent the majority of my life in California, as those of you who know me know. And I have to be careful what I say because 80% of people that are close to me still live in California. And no offense, guys, but are still asleep. So that I not offend anyone, because I'm not here to please anyone, I'm here to tell the truth. Respectfully, I will refrain from commenting on what you've just said, and we'll just have to wait because I believe this is the time of unraveling. This is the time of exposure, and all that's been well hidden time of revelation. So all that people have tried to hide and have successfully hidden over the years are becoming transparent, or as we say, exposed. So we'll just wait on those who rule the planet, not those who rule the world. And I'm hoping that revelation is showing up soon.
But now, as far as the candidates go, I think last time I looked, Karen Bass had moved on. She had enough votes to move on, and for the LA mayor race, and um, Spencer Pratt was getting close, but his competitor, and I can't remember her name, she was getting destroyed in the voting, but now somehow she's managed to catch up to Spencer Pratt. But I'm not a fan of Karen Bass. I've heard every excuse in the world as to why she can't do her job. But yeah, I have heard her talk about zero solutions. And all she wants to talk about is, wow, I've cleaned up the homeless problem for a little bit. Okay, good job. Yeah, we did. Californians wanted you to do that. However, what about the rest of the problems in LA? You had a massive fire that you guys just ignore like it never happened. And I don't know if I would fully back Spencer Pratt, but if you're looking for a candidate that's going to light a fire, that's him. I do like Spencer Pratt. I want somebody who's motivated to come in and do a job and do it aggressively and do it as well as you can. Um, so I don't know who's going to win that race. You already know what you're going to get with Karen Bass. So if you like what she does, vote for her. Continue to vote for people like that. If you want California to change and you want your population to stop moving out of California, then maybe it's time to look in a different direction. The same old just doesn't work. I argue that with people all the time. Like, you get what you vote for. You continue to vote for things that don't work. You're going to continue to get a state or a city that doesn't work. So, when we look at the governor race, it's just what's his name, Steve Hinton. He was winning. Now he's in second, and we're seeing, but I can never pronounce his name right. Xavier Becerra, I think is how it's pronounced. But he's taken the lead, and my thing with him is he was in the Biden administration, which it's pretty well known that the Biden administration was covering up Joe Biden's cognitive decline. It's pretty evident. But the thing is, when you listen to the people that were in the Biden administration talk about Xavier Becerra, they say he's the biggest idiot of the bunch. So if the Biden administration is saying, who most of America thinks was a bunch of idiots, think Xavier Becerra is an idiot, that's what you're going to end up with as your governor in California. So I just think that there's a lot of people in California that would just stick with the same, and you're going to get the same results. And I think that there was a better option. I think maybe even Tom Steyer would have been a better option than Xavier Becerra. Tom Steyer is a businessman. He's a little on the cuckoo side a little bit for me, but he understands how money works. So I would have rather, if you're going to go Democrat, I'd rather see Tom Steyer than Xavier Becerra. He was a huge failure at his job in the White House. So, but that's California's going to get what California votes for, and then they're going to get mad when they keep losing House seats because their population is declining.
Well, you know how I feel about the elections. Wings of the same bird, controlled opposition, and the team that is, I'm not even paying attention because I understand what happens with these elections. So to me, thank you, Erik, that you're keeping up with it, because for me, it's wasting energy because the votes really have little to do with the results. You know that. And so it's like a circus, and I just don't want to participate. They already know who they're going to have in their office because that person has to be the one that's appointed to play that role. What's going on with the war? Are they
Nothing.
still on a pause? Or
Yeah. See,
is it a
so
pause or is it an abortion?
there's the ceasefire still in place. It looks like they're going to extend it. Now, here's I had to explain this on Pakistan because I don't Pakistan TV. I don't think they quite understood how our government fully works because the House did pass the war resolution to be able to intervene Trump away from the war. It made big news. Yeah, it's got to go through the Senate yet. Even if the Senate passes, Trump has veto power. This is all theater. It's all for nothing, and they know that. But they're trying to, we're in an election cycle, so everybody's trying to get there. Well, we passed the War Resolutions Act, and which they know Trump's going to veto it. So it's a big nothing burger, and a lot of people are getting really feisty about it. I'm like, well, as soon as it hits Trump's desk, he's going to take it and throw it in the trash. I don't understand why you're getting so excited. But as far as the war goes, Trump's gonna continue to ride this out. Just in the average gas prices in the last month, we've seen it drop about 35 cents. Even with the war going on, we're at like 4.22 or something like that.
Sir, can I interrupt you right there? So
Mhm.
here's my confusion around that whole gas thing. If we are not reliant on that and the war is in pause, why is it even affecting gas prices?
Because
Dots have to connect.
it's quality. It's quality of gas. So the richest, sweetest oil in the world is in the Middle East. It is your prime material. So, for instance, when you make stuff out of plastic, like when you recycle plastic, I'm like a foremost expert in recycling plastic.
We
So
know
that
this.
you'll get like what they call virgin material, which is flawless plastic made from the best oil, and you can make anything out of it. Now, what companies like to do, they'll take that perfect virgin plastic and they'll go bring scrap plastic in that's less quality. It has been recycled several times over, and they'll blend it in and they'll stretch their money. They do the same thing in gas. They'll go buy as their prime base fuel from the Middle East, and then they'll go buy American oil, which is just slightly a lesser quality than Middle East oil, to stretch out their dollar on it. Or if they really want to get Brody, they'll go to Venezuela and get that nasty, clumpy crude that they've got, and they'll really stretch some things out because they can buy that dirt cheap and just keep putting it in stuff, and it'll lower the Saudi oil quality. However, it's not enough to where you notice it. It's kind of like being a drug dealer and you're putting baking soda in your cocaine. It's the same concept. You're just cutting your material. They do it in the oil industry all the time. So that's what's going on. Everybody wants the Middle East oil. It's the best oil on the planet without a doubt. Russia's got pretty good oil, but not as good as Middle East. We've got pretty good oil here in the United States, but not as good as the Middle East. So it is still vaunted. We can get by without it and use our own oil. We can chop it up with Venezuelan oil. Malaysia and the Philippines produce oil. There's other oil sources, but everybody wants that. Man, that oil coming out of the Middle East is like honey. It's like we're bees attracted to some honey.
So, okay, thank you for that explanation. But if we are not receiving that oil at this time because Hormuz is closed,
Mm-hmm.
why? I'm still confused. Why then are the gas prices going up at the pump? Because
Because there's a shortage.
we're not getting that oil.
Yeah, there's
So
just a shortage.
Right. So the oil we're getting is a subservient quality and we're paying more money is where I'm confused.
Well, it's a supply and demand. When the supply is low, the price goes up. When the
So
supply is
then we are,
vast, price goes up.
so then it's not correct to say we are not being affected by Hormuz. We are, because our supply has somewhat been, is less.
Yeah, I mean,
Even though we're getting oil, we're still getting oil, we're just not getting the same quality of oil, is what you're saying.
so it's not so much the government that does it though. It's the oil industry. So the refineries have to refine somebody's oil.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, now I'm connecting it. Thank you.
So it comes down to the brokers. The brokers run the oil industry.
Well,
They
maybe
go
it's
get
time for the government to step in and say, no, you don't get to do this. You
well, if
don't
you
get to
do
capitalize on, on an unfortunate situation which we caused.
well, Donald Trump has already stepped in both of his terms. The average markup for oil under Donald Trump is around 40 cents, where in the Biden administration you were at $1.25 was the markup. So and that was Joe Biden not making a deal with the oil companies. So Trump has done everything he can without making himself look like a dictator in the oil industry. He can only do so much before the leftists go after him for being a dictator. So you can't really go into an open market like the oil industry and do that. Now, the oil industry is supposed to have its own competitors. Now, OPEC is severely damaged right now because they're not making money right now. The Strait of Hormuz is very damaging because OPEC sets the standard. So that's why the Strait of Hormuz is so significant, is because of OPEC. Now you have UAE can't get their oil out. The Saudis can't get their oil out. Oman, Qatar, none of those countries can get their oil out because Iran keeps blowing up everything. So that's why there's so much involved. There's so many different moving parts. 11 to 17% of the oil industry from that region is coming over here and buying Venezuelan and U.S. oil. So there is a shift happening. But when you think about it and you look at transport cost, the cost for a shipment to, like, if let's say you're India and you can't buy Iranian oil or any oil out of the Middle East no more. Well, your shipping cost is next to nothing because it's right there. Now you got to send your tanker all the way across the ocean on the other side of the planet to get American oil, and you can't buy it from Russia because they're sanctioned. So we actually, America has a monopoly on oil right now. The only country in Europe that pumps oil is Norway, and they don't pump enough to sustain anything. So that's kind of where it's at.
So,
The
Eric,
transport costs are high.
thank you so much. We're almost out of time, and I wanted to hear your views on the Sazan Island off of Albania that Ivanka and her husband are planning to buy and turning it into a luxury resort. What is with that? Because I'll tell you what I did notice this morning, the few minutes I spent researching. The streets are packed with people. Those people, compared to us Americans, are really paying attention because they're not having any of it. What have you found out?
To me, it's a nothing burger. It's just business people trying to make money.
Because
I,
did you know there's some kind of ex-military base with lots of tunnels on the ground on this island? So guys, don't hate me because I like to connect dots, as you know. That must have been my favorite game when I was a kid. But I wanted to know why. So I was hoping you found out some of what I found out when I took a dive into the rabbit hole. But I'm not going to say any of it. Maybe next week it would have died down or it would have turned, because it's always got to be something, the war is on pause. So there has to be another destruction.
well,
And
the Albanians would have to go after their own government for allowing the sale to a foreign entity,
of
so
course, it
they can
always
get mad
starts
at the
there.
Trumps.
Who took money there for anyway? Because apparently it was blocked and then suddenly boom, the block was unblocked. So one thing I've learned as a human since I've become aware, since I woke up, a lot of these types of acquisitions, purchases, they're strategic. And maybe next week we can talk some more about this because maybe then we'll have either the good news that it's not going to happen or the updates on what has happened. So, Erik, we are down to 6 minutes, and I want to make sure we table what you found out this week that is important that we discuss today because it would benefit people to know if they don't already know. And if
I'm
they
going to
know, sorry, and if they know, normally they get the mainstream version, which is not the real version. So go for it, Erik.
I'm going to give the world a prediction that is going to produce fruit. I would bet my year salary on it. As Andy Beshear, Kentucky's governor, moves up the ranks for president on the Democrat side, you are going to see what kind of person he really is. Now, Andy Beshear, his donors keep getting busted in fraud schemes. His top two donors, Tim Robinson, who is he runs a massive rehab center. He just got indicted this week for over $100 million in fraud from Medicaid, and his other big contributor is Randall Weddle, who's the mayor of London, Kentucky, who who gave about $500,000 to Andy Beshear's illegally gave Andy Beshear $500,000 for his campaign, and he got indicted a couple months ago. So what you're seeing is a pattern that the mainstream media doesn't talk about because they want Andy Beshear to be in good graces because he's either going to be president. At the end of the day, Gavin Newsom's going to fall off. AOC is not going to poll well amongst the moderates. And you're going to see people like Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania and Andy Beshear in Kentucky are going to climb the ranks. And if you don't pay attention, because the world doesn't tell you anything about Andy Beshear, but he's surrounded by crooks. And if you want your money stolen and you want him to put his cronies in there that are going to rob you blind, then vote for Andy Beshear because that's what his whole governorship is all about. And then you can go back to when his dad was governor of Kentucky. He was the same way. He set the standard for theft in Kentucky. So there you go. Do your homework on Andy Beshear.
You know, Erik, I guess to expect to hear people blowing their horns about a politician with integrity is what we would call an oxymoron. Because I am of the strong opinion, and I'm still entitled to it, that the average politician is selected for his role based on his lack of integrity and his willingness to play the dirty game. And this is why I don't watch anything on mainstream media, because these people gain their worship because depending on who on the mainstream channel is reporting, they will build this person up to sound superhuman to get your vote. I urge you, my fellow Americans, wake up, do the homework, connect the dots. We are living in a time where information is at our fingertips. So to say you don't know where to look is to say, I don't care, because news is everywhere. And we all have, God sent each of us with what is known as intuition. If your gut is telling you something ain't right, it isn't. Follow that. That is a really good compass. And my opinion, in addition to what I've already shared, A lot of these people have no moral compass. Money and power. And if your name is not money or power, they are not looking out for you. You better start advocating for yourself. We keep telling you some not so good stuff is coming. And if you don't protect yourself, you're going to have to deal with what is probably going to be something you can't get yourself out of because it is inevitable. And that's my 2 cents. Eric, your wrap up today. You wrap.
I've been able to prove through some of my work that if you put enough pressure on someone, you can make them do the right thing. Because PR is a politician's nightmare. As you can see with Graham Plattner in Maine, he is taking a beating in the media over his scandals. I can get a politician to do the right thing by continually exposing his screws.
So what you waiting for?
I do it. I do it all the time. They eventually will do what I want.
Because we are spiraling in a barrel of. I don't even want to use the adjectives that are coming into my mind because they're already watching me. But I'll tell you what. If you can do it, I'll pay you. Name a price. Do it.
Well, it has to be done at the local levels. The federal levels, they've already mastered the craft of corruption. So you have to stop it where they learn it. And that's at the local levels. That's why I attack the local levels so heavy.
Good. So maybe you are turning the world around little by little. Yeah. You go, Superman. I knew there was a good reason you're my friend.
I try. I just need more people. I can only do one state at a time. There's just so much stuff.
Well, what I've noticed is you do get good people to work with you, and then not everyone is really as good as they appear because money can corrupt, power can corrupt, and some people are for sale, and that therein lies the problem. People like us are not looking for wealth, we're not looking for fame. We are looking to make a change in the world because the world as it is, it's not a healthy place. Only a few are surviving in it, and they are a lot starving and suffering. And we are trying to change that. And I believe Eric can do it. Hats off. We'll see. And thank you for watching us. We'll be back next week with the news update. Trust me, every week I come here, I am hoping we have some wonderful breakthrough story for you. But every week, we're still spiraling with the same type of stuff. But I honestly believe change is going to happen. But sometimes, before it gets better, it has to get worse. And that's the unfortunate part of change. See you next week, and thank you for following us.